repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
I think a new world order is emerging.
An inside job? How dare you? How dare you?
To create, so to say, mass-produced models of human beings arranged in some kind of a scientific caste system.
We shall go on to the end. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall never surrender.
Good day, everybody. It's 16th of May, 2015, and this is UCY.TV. And I can't type and talk at the same time, so hold on a bit. There we go. This is the Solvinur Event. If you go to ucy.tv and mouse over shows, you get an idea of what's going on. And coffee here. Yay! Put that coin over there. If you click on any of them, you can see what they've made in the past, and you can then also find there a link to the chat room. Now let's see, put this there. Invite, right? Yes. There's a couple of people already there. And I think we're going to get a new edition. Are you there, JJ? He is there, but... same problem as yesterday, buddy. Something is messed up. Probably something with your mixer. So, how do we do this? There. We've got a new chatter also. Never seen him before. Nice picture there. Victory through vegetables? Yeah. What are you gonna do? Smash people around with bananas? I'm just kidding with you, bro. Welcome. There's also some other people. Are you there?
Alright, does that sound better?
Well, it's a bit loud, but I can at least hear you.
Okay, how about that?
Well, a little bit less.
Check. That better?
Well, yeah, I can understand. It's okay like that. You getting any feedback?
No, it must be my mixer, Walter.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to do some testing. Listen, I apologize.
That's no problem.
I'll let you go.
Oh, okay.
Oh, can you understand me? I don't want to be on here if it sounds so crappy that nobody can understand us.
No, it's okay. We can hear you.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yes, we do know. You're fine.
I mean, my mixer might be messed up. I may have to go get another mixer, another setup.
Uh-huh. Did wash over or something? Was it in the
My basement flooded this winter.
Oh, that's bad.
So, anyways, I'm here now. If you guys can understand me.
Yes, I can. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty well, man. How's Walter?
Well, I'm a bit sad because my cat died.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He was only 3 years old.
Oh, that's terrible, dude. I love my cats.
Yeah. I got a picture of him on my newly bought dumb phone, but yeah, he's gone. So it's kind of empty here. Yeah.
Oh, Walter, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that, dude.
I'll get over it.
You'll have to get another cat.
I doubt it. I'm not gonna do. I still have my rabbit, who's in the garden at the moment. So
Too much, huh? I wish I could. I thought I had done all this testing yesterday on Skype with Jules, and I sounded fine. Apparently,
yeah, there's something going on, which is not good. Yeah, now it sounds like there's an electrical problem. You're like, you know? Can you hear all right? No. Yeah, we really do have a problem. I was going to let JJ tell us how, when he's going to be, I mean not how, back on the radio. So, but if this isn't working, maybe you can type it to me, and I'll make sure that people know when to come. Alright, let's see, there. Alright, so now let's do some typing. Yeah, okay. No problem. Chicky day. So I can at least... yeah, or the jack or something. So, hey Joe, how you doing, buddy? There's a couple of people in the chat. Some have just joined, like Joe Friday, it's good to see you. Anon37, JJ, Road's been there for like over an hour. Victory is there. Vince, how you doing, buddy? And listener, good to see you back. Hansel is there. And 3 Anons, welcome everybody. So tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, guys, you can hear JJ live. 2 p.m. Eastern, that's 8 o'clock for me, Dutch time. So I'll see if I can remember that, and I'll try and catch you also, JJ. Alright. Louis Cipher also just joined the chat. Alright, so there's another reason why I wanted JJ to come on, because yesterday we could all hear JJ on radio at Jack Blood. And you can get there by going to, put that in the chat also, so you can guys can check it out. There. And it seems that he's gone kind of solo. I don't know how else to explain it. there's a widget at the top of the page where you can click his picture, and that should take you to something like Mixrel Live Audio, which at the moment is off air. Right? So, but there you can go if he's on air live. Jack Blood Radio Show. He was kind of fooling around a bit yesterday, attacking his affiliates. Yeah. At least that's what I understood from it later on, because I couldn't tell by his voice whether he was serious or not, you know, but yeah. So check it out, in case you missed him. He's still there. And he makes nice radio. There's music you can hear, good music. So. Good morning, Jules is also joined. Del and C, welcome everybody. Is also joined. All right. I think we've got everybody now. How you doing, guys? So today we should be discussing the rest of Lark and Rose's The Most Dangerous Superstition. But I wanted to get something off my mind before we go there. And this is about the nature of reality, I guess. Right? Which is also known as metaphysics or ontology. And because of over the last few months, half a year or so, I've been focusing more on the materialistic side of things, especially through the trivium, right? Which has an epistemology that says, epistemology means how do you know what you know, or simply just knowledge. It's from Greek or Latin, I'm not sure. And you visualize the 3, 4, 5 triangle, where the 5 is your senses, the 3 is the trivium, and the 4 is the quadrivium. And the idea is that you get your information from your senses, right? That's the epistemology which can lead you to a metaphysics that tells you, well, what's the universe made of, right? In the past, in the ancient philosophies, they regarded elements like earth, water, air, fire, ether as basic elements from which all other forms of matter flow, right? Now, my whole problem with this is that what about extrasensory perception, right? And you're thinking, whoa, what the heck is that, right? Well, for instance, is something that I noticed long before I ever heard of Rupert Sheldrake, but he did a whole study on this. And it seems that a lot of people had this experience that they were being stared at from behind, and they noticed, and they looked around, and they found that they were being stared at by somebody. This is apparently very well known in security business, where Rupert would ask these professionals that work in security if they had noticed this effect, and they said, yeah, we noticed that. People notice when they're being stared at. It even seems to be that in certain military courses, what do you call them? Opleiding in Dutch. Training exercise, something like that. When you stalk upon a person, you should not look at him directly because, you know, you might get noticed that way. There's also dogs that seem to know when you're coming home. Rupert also did research on this, and he says that the moment you form the intention to go home, the dog moves to the front of the door and starts waiting for you. Now those are all extrasensory perceptions, right? You don't see it, you don't hear it, you don't taste it. So this is a kind of hard to speak about area, and it becomes even more frustrating when the whole idea of consciousness comes in. Right? An objectivist philosopher would say, well, consciousness is nothing but the faculty to be aware of what your senses are telling you. Right? I personally think it's more than that, but it's very hard to explain. I don't believe, for instance, that it is just the effect of certain chemicals in your brain or wherever adding together to form consciousness. I don't think that's it. All right. So this whole trivium thing and me speaking against all kinds of religions and such might cause you to think that I'm a materialist. All right, I'm no such thing. I think there's well, how do they say? There's more between heaven and earth. Is that the saying you use in English? Yeah. But it's very hard to talk about those things in a non-confusing way, so to speak. Yeah. One argument I can bring forth against the objectivist view that consciousness is nothing but a faculty is that you can change your consciousness. You know, people use all kinds of drugs which change your consciousness, right? So that's kind of contradictory to the fact that it's only a faculty, right? Yeah, he does, Joe. Let's see. At the moment, I was looking at this one, which is very interesting. Unfortunately, the video that is being shown on that website is made by a Dutch television company, the VPRO. And they fracking deny me to look at this. Oh, copyright, blah, blah, blah. So unfortunately I can't watch the darn video. But there are a lot of videos on YouTube. If you just, go do Sheldrake and morphic resonance or morphogenetic fields, then you will get a lot of things you can watch. Lady Pitbull, welcome. How you doing? And One Anon has come back or reconnected. Welcome. Alright. So about consciousness, I also have trouble, not only with the objectivist view on it, but I also have trouble with the idea that is from the ancient philosophers and religious people that claim, well, consciousness is a product from the soul. And then when your soul enters your body, you become conscious of your body, right? That's also, you have to take that on faith, right? And I don't like to do that. I want to know things for sure. Yeah, it's just a personal thing, I guess. So, let's see, coffee. Yes, Joe, I tried to find that video on other sites, but I get the same message. The Dutch VPRO will not allow me to watch this in my country, specifically, you know, specifically in Holland, you're not allowed to watch this. It has Dutch, yeah, see? All say it's copyrighted, yeah. Sad. That's too bad, too bad. It's an interesting way of looking at it, because, you know, Rupert Sheldrake is not somebody who will dogmatically accept whatever people say, and he will try to figure out experiments he can do to test somebody's statements or claims. So I like that, you know, if you can experiment certain things, then, you know, you can make it more reasonable to accept certain statements as facts or as being true. All right. So much for that, I guess. If you have any questions, please type them out in the chat room, and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. It doesn't have to be on topic, but I'm going to try and finish today. Probably won't make it, but this Most Dangerous Superstition by Larkin Rose. The fact that so many things are assumed to be problems for authority to handle is a sign of intellectual laziness. Customers want quality products, and businessmen who want to be successful must provide quality products. It is in the interest of both, therefore, to be able to objectively demonstrate the quality of the products being offered. Contrary to the stereotype of the evil, greedy, profiteering businessman, the way to become rich in a free society is by providing products and services which actually benefit the customer. Almost all of the dishonest schemes that are profitable in the long term are those that are forcibly created or endorsed by government, such as fractional banking scam, the legal counterfeiting scam called monetary policy, the litigation racket, and so on. Right? What the heck is that, litigation racket? Even without government, there would occasionally be serious conflicts. For example, suppose a factory was dumping toxic waste into a river, killing all the fish downstream on the property of others, which would constitute a form of trespass and property destruction. The absence of authority would not preclude the victims from doing anything about it. In fact, it may make it easier for them to do something about it. Instead of suing in a government court where the judge can be bribed into supporting the billion-dollar business, the response might be to something more effective, even if it appears less civilized. Blah, blah, blah. The people who live on the river may do something as simple as telling the factory owner that if he keeps allowing his pollution to flow onto their properties, they will physically destroy his factory. Yeah, that sounds like a good option, right? Okay. Let's see. Click this, then that, then right click there, then, oops, that's the wrong one, cancel, there we go. Let's see what we can get here. Yeah.
Okay, now we can try this one more time. Do I sound better?
Wow, you sound awesome.
All right. Yeah, it must have been I just switched jacks. You know, sometimes cords get shorts in them and jacks get worn out.
Yeah.
So I tried a new jack, and here we are.
Yep. Very good to hear you, buddy.
Well, thanks. I'm glad you can hear me.
Yeah.
It sucks to sound like I was listening to it. It sounded crazy.
Yeah, yesterday on Jackpot you were on the phone, and I
on the phone I sounded good.
Yeah, you do, but then I miss the clarity of your voice that Skype has, you know?
Right. How's that? Better?
It's so much better, and also I think you have a wonderful radio voice, so that's why I missed it yesterday, you know?
I know, you know, and that's why I got caught off guard at the end of the show. I felt like I was firing on all cylinders yesterday. I must have just missed the humor in it because, you know, not that I felt like I was being chastised, but for a minute there I did. I was like, whoa, dude. And he said he was joking. I was, got me. I've been punked.
Yeah. Yeah, he had me go in there also for a while. I was suspicious, you know, but because I couldn't tell by his voice. Some of the people you meet in your life, you can't tell by their voice if they're joking or not, you know?
I know. Yeah. Apparently he was, and you know. But yeah, so that's my synopsis of the show. I was the inaugural guest on his bitter old man's hour, I guess.
Yeah.
I can be bitter. I can act bitter, but I'm not really too bitter.
No, I can't let that get to me, you know?
Yeah, I know.
It's one of the psychological effects that being awake might have on you, that you become angry and that you know, don't want to live anymore, you know, things like that. But I can't let that get to me, you know. I'm not giving them the power to make me depressed or anything about it, you know.
Right. Yeah, I haven't even tried to be involved in so long right now, you know. Mm-hmm. I just had to get my own life back in order. I needed to get to work. I needed to get things going again.
You got work?
Oh yeah, I've been working for the last couple of years now.
Ah, very good, buddy. Yeah, I just recently got work myself because my fingers, they're not in order, right? I damaged them a long time ago, and the hospital didn't really treat it okay. And so I can't do the work which I used to do. And one government worker actually pointed me to what we call indication. And if you get this indication, then your chances of getting work are so much higher. And, well, like 2-3 weeks after I got my indication, I got work immediately. Yeah, they gave me
Great.
a year contract, and they extended that to July 2017 now. And if everything goes all right, I will have a steady job after that.
Oh, that's great. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, it's good to be working again, because I was like without a job for far too long.
Yeah, I hear you, brother. Me too, man. That was the hit on my psyche that I didn't have the ability to overcome. I had to just drop everything until I got that taken care of.
Yeah, good idea.
Well, it starts affecting everything. Then I start sounding angry all the time, so.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to do a live show tomorrow at 2 if I seem to be sounding all right now.
Yes, use this setup.
Yeah. So yesterday was actually my first try to see if I could even, I don't know, man. I lost some of my passion for being on the radio, I think, but I also see all my friends, and I want to, I don't have any illusions to think I'm changing the world, but I do like to entertain my friends. And
yeah, I got the same idea. It's like when I make radio, I feel like I'm more into reality than any other time. That helps. It helps me get a good humor. No, not a good humor. We say that in Dutch, goed humeur. To get psychologically well again, I guess. Because when I step into the world where I work, for instance, I have to deal with all the illusions that people put forth.
I know. Like, and the one thing you got to learn, what I think a lot of people could take a lesson is to know when not to say something. I mean,
yeah.
I catch myself all the time just trying to know when not to say something. I can always say something, but there's an art form to knowing when not to say something, You don't always have to call people out. You don't always have to say bullshit on everything. Uh-huh. Some people do. I personally don't. I try not to all the time. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Some people just don't know when to say that one, you know what I mean? That one last thing they hit, So I feel like if you work hard on not being not censoring yourself or even being politically correct, but just being, human and knowing when not, knowing when not to twist the knife.
Yeah. Yeah, I get what you mean. Sometimes at my work, I also have that problem, and I have managed to find some kind of middle way. Because some weeks ago, somebody mentioned anti-Semitism, and he was talking about that, and I said to him, do you know what a Semite is? And he was looking at me like, well, Jews. And I said, well, anything else, And he didn't have an answer to that. And so I said, well, go look up actually what a Semite is. And then maybe he won't say these things anymore. And you'll get a better view of what's going on. And that's all I said, So just letting him know that, it's good to have a better understanding of the words that you're using.
Yeah, etymology is probably, that's kind of what I've been working on recently is just trying to, get to the origins of the words I use all the time, frequently.
Cool, yeah, etymology is very good. Unfortunately, it's not a science. But,
no, but it gives you a better understanding, you're using roots and, and things like that. You're using words that are used every day out of context, because you know what I mean, like anti-Semitism. Most people that bandy that word about don't even know what a Semite is.
Yeah,
they just assume Jew.
Yeah,
and that is all encompassing.
Yeah,
And
also another example of that was a couple of weeks ago. Also. Somebody, and I don't bring up these topics, right? It's my coworkers that they are called not awake, right? And they were talking about what we here in Holland call the vuurwerkramp. What do you call that? What you light off at New Year's Day? What do you call that?
Resolutions?
No, the the fiery things in the sky and stuff.
Fireworks?
Fireworks, yeah.
Yes.
15 years ago here, the mainstream media claim is that we had a firework disaster. Where a place where they kept all these fireworks in the neighborhood where they were stored, right? It blew up and wiped away the whole area and killed 23 people. And I was like, whoa, this is a bit much. Let me take a look at the video that was available, right? And there were live videos because people had phones and they made video. Okay, I'm telling you, that was no fireworks, right? And so this guy brought this up at a certain point in the conversation. I said, why do you call that a fireworks disaster? There was no fireworks. And he looks at me like, what do you mean there was no fireworks? Of course there was fireworks. And I didn't say anything anymore about it. But 2 days later, in one of the mainstream media papers that we have, the Telegraph, there was a 2-page article about it. And I thought, wow, I got to take this to him, right? And so I showed him the article, and now he's doubting the story, you know?
Yeah, you do that, and sometimes it backfires on you, and he'll look at that and get angry at you for proving, for not. Well, it's you got to just try. But if you do it right, if you try not to tell people they're stupid because of how they believe or how they think, then you generally get a lot more traction with people,
Yep.
Especially if you just use it in casual conversation instead of like just trying to shut down the whole room and stand up there on a pulpit. They're talking casually, and you just, start with, well, I have a slightly different opinion, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. So I don't make it a habit of trying to shove shit down people's throat anymore. I did. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was. Remember, I used to call them Jehovah Witness truthers. With a bullhorn. I'm going door to door and I'm banging on. I'm coming in. I'm putting my foot in the door and I'm coming in.
Yeah.
And I didn't get anywhere that way. But, now it's been, just years of just casual conversation with all the people I know. And for a while it was more, we just didn't talk about certain things. And you'll know this now, too, because of years of, talking about certain things that your friends don't want to not talk about it anymore because they see just by having that in their head, that other idea.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem as crazy and incredulous to them anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And they don't roll their eyes at me whenever I roll my eyes at the news anymore. You know what I mean? It used to be whenever somebody said something, or whenever some official like news story came up, I'd start rolling my eyes, going, and it just drove all my friends nuts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but now I don't do that, and they do that. They're like, he's crazy, isn't he, Jim? So yeah.
Oh, that's good to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, Walter, man. I'm glad to be talking to you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it is. It has. Yeah, there's one person in the group that I work with who has a good chance of waking up. Let's put it this way, because she was talking. She was making a comment on the news, and we have the radio on at our workplace, right? And at the news, they mentioned that they have made another so many drug busts this year, right? And then they make the claim that what they caught was actually 70% of what's really going on. And she said, well, how do they know it's 70%? So she's good at catching fallacies, Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that I could bring a little clarity to someone somewhere at some point, Sometimes you feel like you're just farting in the wind, pardon my French there, but you know what I mean? So sometimes it feels useless, but at other times, look, I'm just really great. I try to be grateful because I've met just so many I've met a lot of idiots and jackasses, but a lot of people think I'm an idiot and a jackass too. So I've met a lot of really wonderful people since I've become involved in this sort of thing. And Walter, you're one of them.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. It's the same. It's likewise.
Quite frankly, a lot of us may know each other the rest of our lives. So it's, the word I'm looking for is, sometimes as hopeless as it seems as a situation where, not being able. See, a lot of people think things should change, and it's not changing fast enough for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I, if you look at it on the other side, you've met a lot of incredible people, and you've been able to examine a lot of beautiful and alternative narratives to things that would never even occur to you otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's why I try to stay humble. I mean, occasionally I do get caught up in, name calling and things like that, but I try to apologize and I try to move on and just be humble, because I am grateful for what I've gained. I haven't really, and I say I haven't gained anything monetarily, which isn't true. I've gotten donations before, but what I've gained is I've just got so many new and wonderful friends and people that I'll know that have, wonderful, just all different sorts of outlooks on different things, and none of them are right, none of them are wrong. I don't have all the answers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't think anyone does.
Yeah, I think we have some good times, and that's how do I say this? I'm looking for an English word here. Jesus, it came to my mind because Jules is putting something in the chat room. She's talking about people that are stirring up trouble, right? And I'm suspecting agents, right? Or, I don't know, CIA or whatever, NSA, who knows? Maybe even unknown people
sure.
out there. And despite was the word I'm looking for. Despite all of those efforts by so-called agents, I think that a lot of people got good things going on, right?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you're talking about a system. Look, man, Walter. People think that this is a new world order they're trying to This is an old, thousands of years old order, and it's still here, and it was here then, and we have the same frustrations as our ancestors did 2,000 years ago with the same establishment. Maybe not the exact, the same, although a lot of people would claim that many of the families are the same, the bloodlines. It's the same old story, The regular people are always going to be... There's always going to be regular people that see that they're being trampled on and want to say something, and then there's always going to be people that don't want to rock the boat because they don't want things to get worse. I try to find an area in the middle. I am a rabble rouser, but then I don't want to cause other people, to be in pain or sorrow. It really hurts me, and so I try not to. Yeah,
Jules, that was a topic yesterday also with Jack Blood and JJ. It's like, or was it somebody else? My memory is not so good these days. But it seems that all of these different groups that are out there and that claim to know the truth, they don't seem to be getting along with each other very much. That's not so good, right?
No, and I believe that a lot of it's there. You do have your professional agents out there, but then you have human nature, the greed. A lot of it's just greed. People that are just trying to to gather monetary gains and influential gains, just influence, just be, some people just really like to be able to call shots or to be able to get angry and get even. But I believe that most of this movement is just a bunch of people, just a bunch of marketers trying to sell. And I really sometimes I become disillusioned, but we have the fortune of knowing a lot just regular people that aren't always trying to sell something or trying to scare you into buying something or scare you into you thinking something.
Yeah, I think that's a way to spot these people out, is when they say, well, if you don't believe that there were no planes at the WTC, then I don't want to talk to you, all right? Or then you're crazy,
Right.
Those kinds of arguments are, to me, a sign.
Well, Walter, I have a hard enough time, like I was trying to tell Jack, I have a hard enough time just trying to convince somebody that there was prior knowledge, that some people knew that it was going to happen. Never mind a grand conspiracy, just the fact that some people knew it was going to happen and tried to warn others. Nobody believes me. I have a hard time just getting people to believe that, much less, like I was saying, exotic particle beams and suitcase nukes and no planes, and you bring all that into the conversation. Now you can't tell somebody, well, don't you feel it's suspicious that all the records from all these massive investigations that were going on, these massive frauds that were happening on Wall Street, these massive frauds that involved the Clintons and the Bushes, and all this stuff was destroyed? You can't even get that far because they look at you like an idiot because you don't, it's out there that people think that there were, particle beams and energy weapons and nuclear bombs in these buildings. Yeah. So you can't even get to the point where you're like, well, just follow the money. Cui bono. Follow the money. Yeah. Who stood to gain? There's not a gosh darn Muslim on planet Earth that gained from the events of September 11th.
On the contrary.
Except for a Saudi Arabian, possibly.
No, but like Afghanistan would have no reason to attack because they knew that if they did that, they would be invaded, right? Which is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
So, cui bono, right? But about pre-knowledge, what about the presidential briefing of 6th of August, was it, right?
Exactly. PNAC, as Jack was mentioning.
Yeah, also that.
Jeb Bush is a member of PNAC.
Also that, yeah. Yeah.
And the Jewish lobby.
And also, I noticed from a German politician or ex-politician who gave a presentation about 9/11 somewhere around 2004 or something. And he found out that there were 26 secret agencies around the world that had warned the United States about an incoming attack.
Of course.
That's strange, isn't it? I found that strange. First.
Yeah, but the truth, and that's the truth, though.
It's probably true, but I want to know what they said. Did they say like, well, United States, you're going to, with help of others, attack your own, or
I'm sure it was more like, because Walter, that it's not everybody in these agencies and that these conspiracies, there's certain elements because they're controlled by the money, okay? And so if you've got all the money, then you can get your little agents in the CIA, in the banking community, in the fucking halls of government and industry. And I'm sure what it was obviously just like all of these little FBI stings, you get a group of people and then you get one guy. The one guy in there's like, hey, we should blow up the World Trade Center. Or whatever. So it becomes a plan in Al-Qaeda. Well, you know that all these groups, including Al-Qaeda, including ISIS, including, most of the right-wing militias in the United States are infiltrated.
Yeah.
And so you get a guy, and I'm sure it was more like a person who has no clue, who just overhears the fact and says, hey, wait a minute. There's people trying to get across the border that they see that are red flagged, and then the State Department comes in and says, let them through. Let them through. We're watching them. Let them through. So then they want to go, and I'm sure it was not somebody who all of a sudden had a case of conscience that wanted to go out and say, oh, my God, I think the Americans are going to attack themselves. It was probably just honest intelligence officers, whether they were and regardless of the intelligence service they were working for,
Yeah.
because because everybody was involved. All the intelligence agencies had to have a little hand in it because it could have never happened.
Yeah.
15 Saudi Arabians with $4 box cutters could never have done what they did without without doors being opened for them, whether they knew or not.
Yeah, true enough. Yeah.
And so that's probably what it was. It's certain, but we do know that there were plenty of indications, and there were a lot of people. Susan Lindauer. I mean, there were dialogues from the United States to Saddam Hussein before September 11th happened, because how come we weren't aware of this? That my problem is why didn't they? If you suspect that buildings are going to be crashed, so what? Let us be in a panic. Let us not go to work if we don't want to that day.
Mm-hmm. Didn't Susan go to the Iraqi?
She tried. She was Susan was actually an activist before. She was, because of the sanctions that were placed after the first Gulf invasion in the 90s.
Yeah.
So she was an activist who had friends in the government there, and she was passing, according to her, she was passing notes back and forth from the State Department of the United States to her counterpart in Iraq. They were demanding that Iraq give them all the information they have on terrorist attacks. And quite frankly, there was no Al-Qaeda in Iraq, and there was, you know what I mean? So they had no idea, and they'd made all kinds of, they'd agreed, well, we'll let you open up an FBI field office here in Baghdad, if it'll make you feel any better. Saddam Hussein had agreed to buy like 1 million U.S. cars every year for 10 years. Just don't bomb us again.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen. But it was obvious that something was going to happen, and people did know about it, except for the poor souls that had to go to work that day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the answer, George Bush, was go to the stores. Go shopping.
Yeah,
if you don't go out and spend all the money you have left in your bank account, you're letting them win. It's like, really?
Yeah.
I don't know why I fell for it then, why I didn't see right through it that minute, but, I didn't.
That is so uncaring, right?
Yeah, well, the way it played out for a couple of years, all I wanted to see was green night vision, newscasts with night vision and bombs exploding. That's all I wanted to see. And it took me a while to realize how ignorant that was and that my soul was in jeopardy.
Yeah. There was a Dutch delegation also that went to Iraq to investigate whether they had weapons of mass destruction or not. And they all came back and said, well...
Hans Blix was one of the main guys that kept saying, no, they don't have them. They're gone. He destroyed them all.
They were allowed to go everywhere they wanted, and they didn't find anything. Yeah.
No, I know. And we just today I saw a news article where the United States just sent troops and bombed Syria, ISIS in Syria. We got ISIS in the United States, yet we want to keep, look, every penny we send to the opposition of Bashar al-Assad makes it to ISIS, so we got to stop. I say we got to stop, but it's not going to stop. And that's why I stay humble. I want to keep the relationships that I've made because I know, look, man, I just know that there's no way that they're just going to, that these elites, that these star family, these bloodline families are ever going to, they're the ones that are untouchable. We might possibly get at a Bush or a Cheney, but you're not going to get at, a Rockefeller or a Rothschild at the top, the secret agents that control the issuance of money around the globe.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get at them. So, we can, and again, you go to Baltimore. Yeah, it's horrible that cops murder on average. It was until about 3 years ago. After 9/11, they averaged about 600 a year. Now that average is up to about 1,000 a year. 1,000 Americans killed by the police, and they're because they and Americans just they go for it because Well, for the same reason that it's okay to kill Iraqis because they're insurgents.
Yeah.
He shouldn't run from the cops. Yeah, but running from a cop, shouldn't mean that you're going to get shot in the back. I mean, 100 years ago, we call them a dry culture if you shoot someone in the back.
Uh-huh. Yeah, this ties a little bit back to the whole belief in authority that we were talking about the last couple of weeks. Who is that host that I want to plug that knows a lot about ISIS? Is it Brandon Tupperville?
Yeah. Hold on just a second here. Let me answer my phone.
Sure, buddy. Yeah, guys, check him out. I think he's one of the most best researched hosts that are on UCY.tv. Brandon Tupperville. I'm not exactly sure when he's on, and I'm not going to check it out now because it'll interfere with the radio. Just go to UCY.tv, mouse over shows, and find Brandon Tupperville. What's his guys in the chat, help me out. What's his show called again? The track on the tracks, Truth on the Tracks, or something like that. So go check it out. I think he's a good host. He always calm in his voice and explains everything in detail. So you want to know about ISIS and how they are being funded by the West, then you should check out Brandon. So JJ is going to be on tomorrow at 2 p.m. Monday nights, says Joe, for Brandon. But I think Truth on the Tracks, Monday nights. Yes, thank you. Awesome. But I think JJ is going to be on even more than only 2 days, only 1 day a week. I think it's 2 days a week. I think I saw him type that yesterday in Jack Blood's chat. Right? So if you missed Jack Blood, because he had been on UCY, but we lost apparently the codex. Ben Joy, how are you doing, buddy? You can still listen to Jack at via deadlinelive.info. There's a widget at the top of the page there which says Radio Free Blood, which you can click when he's online there. You will see the chat room also, which was kind of filled yesterday. And he does 3-hour blocks. And yesterday, at the end of the 3 hours, he said, well, guys, we're going to do another 3 hours. And if you want to hear and listen, you got to refresh the page. So there were a lot of people in the chat. And when the refresh was over, there was like 20-30% left. So, Jack Blood made a kind of joke about that. Well, that took care of 70%, right? All right, good to hear, Ben. Good to hear you doing okay. Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about 9/11. This is what got me into all of this in the first place. I was at a friend's house. I had CNN on because I like to follow the news. And looking back now, I know that then I was asleep, so to speak, right? And all of a sudden CNN, they had a break from their normal programming because they went live to New York. And I saw black smoke coming out of the World Trade Center. And I'm like, okay, there's black smoke coming out of the World Trade Center. And then the second plane hit, and I'm like, okay, this is not an accident, right? This can't be an accident. And they hadn't even come to that conclusion at CNN yet. And then because of my background in steel, I know that, well, there's nothing going to happen to these buildings. The firemen are going to get up there and, put out the fire. When they came down in 11 seconds, I was like, oh, this is impossible. I felt like stepping into a cartoonish-like world. I was like, am I dreaming? Am I even awake? Because this is impossible. It can't happen. And then, because the mainstream media would not tell me about this fact that it cannot happen like that, whether or not planes fly into buildings, they don't just all of a sudden come down just like that in what seems like a top-down demolition. I knew that because I had an education in steel, and I know what kind of temperatures they can have. I know that with the ordinary fuel that is used in planes, you cannot weaken the steel that much that it would collapse all of it, right? So, because that information did not come out, which to me was like, normal information that anybody could gather, I was like, why are the mainstream media lying to me, right? And then all of the other things happened, like the WTC-7 coming down later that day. In Holland it was like, 10:30 in the evening or something. And that was another blow, so to speak. So, what's going on here? Who's doing all this, right? And doing later investigations into the Pentagon and the so-called crash site in Pennsylvania only gave more contradiction, and the whole story seemed so full of contradictions that I was like, well, why is the mainstream media lying to me about this? And so I was like, okay, well, maybe I should wait for the government, right? Still being asleep and all. They're going to tell what has been going on, right? And it took a while because the government actually took a very long time to come up with a commission that was going to investigate it. And then the commission comes out with a report which not addresses what actually happened and who was responsible, but 90% of the whole document is about how we should respond to what happened, right? It was not actually about what happened. In fact, what I read from, they even told lies about the World Trade Centers 1 and 2, because they claimed that the center of the buildings was a hollow steel shaft, which is untrue. There's 47 core columns which were destroyed in the process, right? So they even lied about that. And that was the point that I started investigating myself. I started going YouTubes, looking at all of the footage again, over and over and over again, trying to figure out what was going on. There were a couple of things I noticed after careful study, like for instance the squibs that were coming out of the building, like 30, 40, 50 floors below the blast wave, so to speak, that took the whole building down. That was one of the things I noticed. Of course, I noticed the lack of a plane at the Pentagon that was somehow attacked. And of course, I noticed again the lack of debris at Pennsylvania, where there was just a hole in the ground and a lot of white dots on the screen. You didn't see any luggage, no seats, no. So a lot of contradictions that I found. And at that point, I had never even heard of a false flag operation. You know, they didn't teach you this at school either, right? That this is how, in history, you know, before 9/11, things have been orchestrated, right? Like Bay of Pigs, for instance. Right? They didn't teach me at school also about USS Liberty, for instance. And yes, Anon 37, I also at that point found out about the previous bombing, which was, what was it, 93, according to Anon? I think it was 93 indeed. That seemed to me like a failed attempt, right? You don't bring down a building by knocking down one of the pillars. You can't do it like that. Because when they build buildings like that, right, I learned this at school, they always make them twice as strong as they need to be because of safety regulations, I guess, right? They always use twice as much, well, I don't know if it's exactly twice as much steel, because twice as much steel is probably even stronger than twice as strong, right? So they always make them twice as much stronger than they need to be. So they make sure that the building doesn't come down when the first storm comes along, right? So it's 1706 in the meantime, which means we're going to play a little Poker Face, right?
Pokerface.com.
Yes. Here we go, JJ. 2012. We'll be right back, people. right, that was Pokerface. Check him out at pokerface.com.
That was actually from Freedom Palooza.
That, yes, 2012. There's a new one coming up, right?
Yes, July, hold on, let me look here. 3rd, nope, it'll be July, whoops, not June, July 3rd, 4th, and 5th this year.
All right.
I believe this will be the last year we're doing it at this location. Next year, we're actually, I believe we got a private gun range we're going to be at, so we'll be able to have, you know, some other things that we haven't been able to have. But yeah, this year we've got our usual guests. Cynthia McKinney is supposed to come again this year. Galata Mons is supposed to be there this year. Obviously James Trafficat is not going to be there this year. Rest in peace to our brother James.
Okay.
You know, like him or not, politician or not, he was my friend, and I'm sorry that he's not around now.
Yeah. And where is this at?
This will be in Easton, Pennsylvania.
Easton, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's outside of, it's near Bethlehem. It's in the Lehigh Valley of Pennsylvania.
All right.
And it'll be like I was saying yesterday. I had big hopes at first, and for the first couple. Now the 5th annual. At this point, it's a party for our friends. Okay, it's a party for all our friends that work hard all year in the movement, trying to make things different or better. And we just come on out. All views, all points of view are welcome. And we'll just entertain you for the weekend. We'll have a great time. We always have, great speakers and great bands, and it's always a good time. So at this point, it's more of a thank you to everybody than, thinking that we're going to do anything significant.
All right. So
but we're happy to do it still.
Yeah. Tomorrow you will be on at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Is that correct?
Affirmative. Tomorrow at 2, Against the Wall with your host, JJ Inc.
And any other day in the week, or is just one day?
Well, there is the possibility of Tuesday, I think, at 8. I just don't. I really don't. I'm really busy, and I just can't make a commitment to do regular stuff. I'll try to do my, this Sunday. I originally had Best of JJ's going, but I've now heard the same one twice, so I apparently need to make more.
Okay, so, yeah.
So I figure I'll try to do a few live shows, just because I have a lot of friends, man, and I really dig them, and I dig when I'm talking, I'm actually, like, I vision most of my friends with me.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, listen, Walter, I have company that's knocking on the door upstairs.
Yep.
And I hate to do this to you, but I think I got to bail.
That's okay, buddy. Thanks for coming.
Listen, this is the Solvinur Event with my good friend Walter. You're at UCY.TV, the media empire.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Thanks a lot, Walter. You have a nice day, buddy.
Thanks. You too. See you later. All right. There we go. That was JJ. And we're into the second hour of the Solvinur Event, coming to you from the Netherlands, where it's just past 5 p.m. So, there we go. We've got about 45 minutes left, in which we can continue with the most dangerous superstition. In the meantime, I will keep an eye on the chat in case you have any questions about what was said, or just randomly. It doesn't have to be on topic. There we go, JJ. Thanks, buddy. Alright, let's get back into the PDF. We're not going to be able to finish this today, so I'm guessing that next week, that will be the last week that we do this. After that, I should probably get back to logical fallacies or mythology, maybe. You know, I don't know what we're going to do next. If you have any suggestions, you can send them to me at solvinur2@yahoo.com. solvinur@yahoo.com. And I'll see what I can do with your suggestions. Alright. Obviously, this is next piece. Obviously, there may be more polite, peaceful ways the problem could be solved. Remember the factory and the ditching of chemicals, such as boycotts or publicizing the wrongdoing. Either way, the people can create an effective deterrent to improve behavior, especially when there is no government involved that can be paid off and corrupted. Yeah, that's good, right? Yeah, Lady Pitbull, that's indeed part of the trivium, the fallacies. Right? There, unfortunately, you know, the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, specifically in that order. Unfortunately, it's a kind of negative way of teaching the fallacies, right? They belong to the second part, the logic part. Unfortunately, you know, I can't say much more yet about logic than the syllogism, right? Which was originally made by Aristotle, I think. I get these names confused sometimes, Socrates and Aristotle. Right, which is kind of like a formulating, mathematical way. And the example most used is premise, a major premise, a minor premise, and a conclusion. The major premise being all men are mortal. A minor premise being Socrates is a man. Right, so it was Socrates. And then, of Aristotle is a man, I don't know, I don't remember. Like I said, I confuse these names. And then the conclusion is, Socrates is mortal, right? So all men are mortal, premise 1. Premise 2, Socrates is a man, therefore you infer that the conclusion, Socrates is mortal, right? So that's a kind of, that's a syllogism and has to do with logic. So unfortunately, doing fallacies is like a negative way. It shows you how to not use logic, right? So fallacy comes from the word fallare, which means to deceive or to lie. Right? So, in teaching how to not do that, okay, that's okay, but from the learning that I did on definitions, right? If you want to define logic, what it is, then you can't use negatives. Right? I've explained this before. If I tell you I have something in my hand, and I tell you it's not a radio, it's not a magnifying glass, it's not a pen, it's not a scissor, you still don't know what I have in my hand, right? So negative explanations are not the best way to specify something, right? So that's a bit unfortunate. I should be able to tell you more about logic. Unfortunately, though, the one course that I followed on it was by a follower of Ayn Rand, Leonard Peikoff, and it became too much for me, especially in the middle, where there's. I only remember one thing from the squares that he used. For instance, there are squares that he uses, and he draws lines between the corners of the squares, and one of them, not only horizontally but also vertically and diagonally. And the only thing that I remember from that is that there is contradictions and contraries, right? And if the point with contradictions is that if one of the contradicting statements turns out to be false, that doesn't mean that the other one is correct, right? Contradictions, both of them can be false. With contraries, it's not like that. If one of the contraries is correct, that means the other one is false. And the other way around, if one of the contrary statements is false, that must mean the other one is correct. An example of that is the cat is dead and the cat is alive. All right? If the cat is not dead, then it must be alive. Right? So those are contraries as opposed to contradictions. Another thing mentioned also in there is hierarchy of ideas. Right? So the first time I heard that, I was like, whoa, what the heck is that? But it seems to be that if your thinking is logically correct, then you cannot confuse in one statement two concepts or two ideas that are of different hierarchy in thinking. Right? And so that's about all I can say about that, because I just didn't understand it that much. And it was only the first time I listened to it, and so according to Gino Denning, that's no problem, because you're not expected to grasp it at the first time. So I must get back to it, listen to it again, and then maybe I'll be able to tell you what I got from it. But a lot of those of the course was spotting fallacies, right? And I think that's good. I think it's good to be able to spot the fallacies. It keeps you from being tricked, keeps you from thinking wrongly, right? It's like a shield, so to speak, right? Trivium. I compare it sometimes to a sword and a shield that you have. And the shield would consist of your knowledge of the logical fallacies that are out there, because, it acts like a virus detector. It shields you from illogical, not reasonable thinking, right? Which keeps you from drawing the wrong conclusions. Right? And this leads me to the difference between not ancient but classical trivium and the trivium method. Right? It's important that you understand this. In the classical trivium was used to control people. Right? The trivium method does not so. The classical trivium is even used today against you. What happens is that they put logic before the grammar, right? They will give you arguments that lead you to conclusions, because they know how you logically think, without checking or even giving you the grammar, right? So that's a way of controlling people. It's mind control, right? The trivium method does it in the correct order. First, you start with your grammar. Those are your building blocks. Then you try and fit the building blocks together in a coherent structure that you can understand, right? And if there you find contradictions, then there's two possibilities. Either your grammar is incorrect, or your understanding of the grammar is incorrect. Right? So when doing research, it's a lot of going back and forth from grammar to logic, back to grammar and logic again. And then the third step, rhetoric, is a good way of checking if you've actually completely understood what the topic is about. If you can't explain something, and I had this realization long before I even woke up, or even 9/11 happened, I knew that if you cannot explain something to somebody else, which is rhetoric, then you don't grasp it. You don't have a good understanding of it. Right? So I was even aware of the trivium at that point, even though I never heard of the trivium. Right? So that's the last step in the trivium, the rhetoric. It's not only being able to explain, but it's also using the accumulated understanding and information from the first two steps. Koffie is op. My coffee is gone. That was Dutch. Coffee is op. Let me roll a cigarette here. So yeah, trivium is very important that you get a grasp of it. It will protect you from being mind controlled, basically. It's a mirror of how your mind works. That's why it's so important that you have an understanding of it. You will find that when you get yourself acquainted with this kind of material, that you see that it is true because you recognize it in yourself, right? Because this is how your mind works. Grammar, logic, rhetoric. All right. So you spotted that well, Lady Pitbull. Yeah, trivium. All right, so where were we? Many campaign contributions now amount to little more than bribes to have government regulators look the other way. Likewise, government courts can easily find reason to dismiss almost any lawsuit, thereby allowing wealthy criminals, the kind with real victims, to prosper. The cliché of the greedy evil businessman often omits the fact that large-scale crimes are usually done with the cooperation of government officials. Without protection from government, even the most greedy, heartless businessman would have a huge incentive to not anger his customer to the point where they stop buying his products. You're welcome, Victory. Or to the point where they react violently against him. Yeah. If you have any questions, Victory, just, put them in the chat room. I do my best spotting them. Most people, most of the time, would be reluctant to use force, knowing that they alone would bear both the responsibility and the risks of doing so. Well, let's check that out, Jules. Reload. Let's see what happens. Well, the reload went fine, but that's only the chat room that I did. I don't know what page you were referring to there, Jules, but the chat room is fine anyways. And I can't check out the UCY because it starts with the player, and that would interfere with the sound. Continuing, most people, most of the time would be. I already did that. There would be a huge incentive to settle disputes and disagreements peacefully and by mutual agreement. When the belief in government is prevalent, on the other hand, there is no incentive to settle things peacefully because Winning the political battle poses no risk to those who advocate violence via government. Right? I would say there would be no incentive, because what people do is they go to the master and say, well, master, he's doing it again, you know. Without a ruling class to it's just what I said, right? Without a ruling class to whine to legislatively impose some central agenda on everyone, people would be forced to deal with each other as rational adults, instead of as whiny, irresponsible children. Yeah. People would be far better served by attempts at cooperation and peaceful compromise than they are by fighting over who can get hold of the sword of government. Yes. Alright. Let me light my cigarette here, guys. When bullying and aggression are no longer recognized as legitimate forms of human interaction, human beings will, out of necessity, learn to play nice. Yeah, and this is not the first time that reading this reminds me of a science fiction series that I was looking at. It's probably gone into a new season by now, so I should check back. And now I have to use Google to give you the name of the show. It actually Falling Skies, right? I think it's a good series, not only because I like television, but also it shows how, and I think, you know, maybe you don't agree with me, but this is how I think people would actually work together while there is no government, at least in the first couple of series, I think episodes, not episodes, whole series, right? I think season 1 and season 2, even into season 3, there is no government, right? And people are working together, right? This is what I would see us doing if there were, yes, Falling Skies. Exactly like that, Victory. I think it's a good series. It's about an invasion by aliens, and these aliens are called Skitters. Later on, though, they find out that these Skitters are actually slaves to another alien race, and this alien race looks very much like humans do, except that they are taller and seem to be more fragile than humans. And then they find that there is a faction within the Skitters that is also trying to break loose from the enslavement by this other race, and they manage to work together even at some point. Right? So that's Falling Skies. Yep. It reminds me of that while reading this. Which brings us to the next heading, which is Anarchy in Action. Louis Cipher says, Saul. Did you see that series yet? Louis Cipher. While many people dread the thought of anarchy, the truth is that almost everyone experiences anarchy on a regular basis. The only thing that bugs me all of the time in that series is that one of the major players is called Mason. Yeah. Anyway, when people go for shopping, I don't know where I got that word fight from, probably from the series. When people go food shopping or browse at the mall, they, not yet, you know, if you like science fiction, you should check it out, Louis. Falling Skies. You have seen the ads for it, okay. Yeah. It's been a while since I went. I think the last season I saw was 4. Probably 5 is out by now. Or browse at the mall, they are seeing the results of non-authoritarian mutual cooperation. No one is forced to produce any of the products offered. Well, I'm not so sure about that one, especially not here in the Netherlands, because farmers are paid to either not produce, let the land lay barren, or produce only certain amounts. All right, we call them quota. A farmer is not allowed to make more than an X amount of milk, for instance. Right? So some people are being forced to produce something or not produce. Blah, blah. No one is forced to sell anything, and no one is forced to buy anything. Each person acts in his own best interest, and everyone involved, producer, seller, and buyer, profits from the arrangement. All of the individuals benefit, and society in general benefits, without any coercion or rulers involved. Alright, so he means if there were no government forcing farmers, right? Because the heading is Anarchy in Action, alright? There are countless examples of mutually voluntary, cooperative, peaceful, efficient and useful events and organizations that do not involve government. Nonetheless, though there are a myriad of readily available examples of how efficient, organized and productive anarchist interaction is compared to nearly all government endeavors, people still imagine that human beings interacting with each other as equals all the time would lead to chaos and mayhem. Yeah, that's a conclusion based on premises which are not correct. And even if the premises were correct, it would be a huge leap, logically speaking, to draw that conclusion, right? It's the same leap I notice sometimes when people say, well, God must exist because there is order in the universe. Right? That's you notice, right? The grammar is that you notice that there is order in the universe, right? And then you jump to the conclusion that therefore there must be something or someone creating this order, right? That's a logical leap, which is too much, right? You can't make that jump. It's invalid, in my opinion, anyway. When cars meet at a four-way stop, or when people pass on the sidewalk, that is anarchy in action. Billions of times every day people take turns, leave room for others, and so on, without any authority commanding them to. Sometimes people are inconsiderate, but even then, only very rarely does a serious conflict occur, anything more serious than a rude gesture or an angry word. Potential conflicts, from very minor things to more serious matters, happen billions of times every day. And in the vast majority of cases they are resolved without violence. And without the involvement of any authority. Even regarding more significant problems, people often find ways to reach mutual agreements, while organized, non-governmental methods of dispute resolution using arbiters, investigations and negotiations can peacefully solve even major disagreements. Most conflicts of interest never get that far. Most people, most of the time, go out of their way to avoid or quickly settle potential clashes with others. Yes. Though some people would point to such things as an indicator of the inherent goodness of mankind, there is often another factor at work. Most people simply do not want the hassles and the stress that comes with confrontations, and especially do not want the risk that come with violent confrontation. Many people turn the other cheek quite often, not necessarily because they are patient and loving, but simply to avoid being bothered with time-wasting, futile bickering. Many, when they encounter someone doing something obnoxious, simply let it slide, because they have more important things to worry about. There is, in most people, a strong tendency to get along, even if just for one's own benefit. And if there were no authority to run to, no giant mommy or daddy state to cry to, people would handle matters like adults far more often than they do now. This is not to say that every difference of opinion would end peacefully and fairly without authority, but the availability of the giant club of government is a constant temptation to anyone who holds a grudge. Alright, you can interpret the word club there literally, but also figuratively. Or wants to hurt someone else, or wants to obtain unearned wealth via litigation. If it were not there, fewer people would drag out or escalate disagreements or disputes, whether because of charity, cowardice, or just a desire to avoid the headaches of a prolonged conflict. Many people, even those who have legitimate complaints against someone else, will simply let bygones be bygones and get on with their lives. Even without such examples, it is utterly irrational to claim that people could not get along without government, when everything government does, using violence and the threat of violence to control people, is the precise opposite of getting along. Good point. The notion that peaceful coexistence requires aggression and coercion is logically ridiculous. The only thing that bringing authority into a situation guarantees is that there will not be a non-violent, peaceful resolution to the matter. When someone describes the society he wants to see, he will almost always describe a state of non-violence, of mutual cooperation and tolerance. In other words, what he will describe is the complete antithesis of the violence and coercion of authority. Yeah. Here in the Netherlands, the word tolerance has gone too far, in my opinion. We tolerate too much, in my opinion. It's destroying culture, literally, by tolerating just about anything. And also it could destroy morality, just tolerating everything. Alright, I've become less tolerant ever since I noticed that it's been a hype here in the Netherlands. You have to be tolerant. No, you don't. I disagree, very much so. Yet, having been raised to imagine authority to be a vital and positive part of society, people still constantly try to achieve peace by way of war, try to achieve cooperation by way of coercion, try to achieve tolerance by way of intolerance, and try to achieve humanity by way of brutality. Remember 1984? Right? People still constantly try to achieve peace by way of war. That's another way of saying war is peace, right? Such insanity is the direct result of the people being taught to respect and obey authority. Which brings us to the next heading, which is anti-authoritarian parenting. Parenting is so often based on authoritarianism that many cannot even imagine what non-authoritarian parenting would look like. It is important to distinguish what effect losing the authority superstition would have on parenting. It would not mean that the parents would put no restrictions on what their children could do. Nor would it rule out parents controlling children against their will in many situations. But it would dramatically change the mindset of both parents and children. These days, teaching children right and wrong and teaching them to obey are seen by most people as the same thing. Yeah. That's strange, right? However, a parent can command a child to do something wrong just as easily as he can command him to do something right. Contrary to what authoritarian parenting teaches, the fact that a parent issued a command does not make it automatically right, and does not make the child obligated to obey. If, for example, a parent commands his child to shoplift, the child has no moral obligation to do so, and disobedience would be perfectly justified, though probably hazardous. Of course, the child may not understand that stealing is wrong if his parent told him to steal. On the other hand, a parent may impose a necessary justified restriction on his child, which the child does not like and does not believe is justified. In either case, the child is only obligated to do whatever he deems right. The alternative would be that he has a moral obligation to do what he deems is wrong, which is impossible. And this is where the difference lies. The authoritarian parent teaches the children that obedience, in and of itself, is a moral imperative, regardless of the commands. Example given, because I'm your father and I said so. Blah, blah, blah. The non-authoritarian parent may also impose restrictions upon the child. Alright guys, question for you in the chat. What logical fallacy did I just say, alright, in the example given? Because I'm your father and I said so. Right? What logical fallacy is in there for people in the chat? What is it called? I'll tell you. It start in Latin or Greek, whatever it is. It starts with AD. It's an ad and then. Yeah. In English, it starts with appeal to. Alright. Logical fallacy. Spot it. Which one is it? Because I'm your father and I said so. What's the logical fallacy? First one in the chat gets a kudo. Yes! Anon got it. And Vince also. Appeal to authority. Ad veracundium. Very good, buddies. Oh, good that you find that one. The non-authoritarian parent may also impose restrictions upon the child, but he does not demand the child like it, nor does he pretend that such restrictions are just, simply because the parent imposed them. In other words, the non-authoritarian Lady Pitbull. The non-authoritarian parent may see the need, because the child does not yet have the knowledge or understanding to be competent enough to make all of his own choices, to force certain restrictions upon a child regarding bedtime, diet, etc., but he does not claim that the child has any moral obligation to obey without question. The sooner the child can be taught the reason for the rule, the sooner he can understand why doing what his parent says will benefit him. Of course, that is not always possible, especially when children are very young. Yeah. The parent who stops the child from eating a box of candy is benefiting the child who does not yet have enough understanding or self-control to serve his own interests. But 37 wins a copy doll. But to teach a child that he should feel a moral obligation to abide by rules which seem to him to be unfair, unnecessary, pointless, stupid, or even hurtful, just because authority told him to, is to teach that child the most dangerous lesson there can be, that he is morally obligated to put up with unfair, unnecessary, pointless, stupid, hurtful things if they are done by authority. Yay! To avoid passing on the authority superstitions, parents should never cite "because I said so" as the reason a child should do something. The parent should express that there are rational reasons for the restrictions, even if the child cannot yet comprehend those reasons. In other words, the justification for the rules is not that parents have the right to forcibly impose any rules they want on their children, but that parents, hopefully, have so much more understanding and knowledge than the children that the parents must make many of the child's choices for him, until he becomes competent to make his own choices. Even more important is how parents control his child's behavior towards others. It is extremely important to teach a child that it is inherently wrong to intentionally harm another person, except when necessary to defend an innocent, including yourself. But if, instead of that principle, the parent teaches "obey me" and then commands the child not to hit others, he has taught the child obedience, but not morality. Very good point, again. If the child refrains from hitting others, not because he understands that doing so is wrong, but only because he was told not to, then he is functioning in the same manner as an amoral robot, and has learned nothing about being a human being. The short-term practical result may look like the same. The child refrains from hitting others, but the lessons learned are very different. When the child who was merely taught to obey grows up and some other authority tells him that he should harm others, he almost certainly will, because he was trained to do as he told. On the other hand, the child who was taught to respect the rights of others and was taught the principles of self-ownership and non-aggression will not lightly abandon those principles just because someone claiming to be authority tells him to. Children learn by example. If a child sees his parents always acting as unquestioning subjects of a ruling class, the child will learn to be a slave. If instead the parents demonstrate in their daily lives how to use and to follow one's own heart and mind, the child will learn to do likewise. The child must understand that it is his duty not merely to follow the rules of being a good person, but to figure out for himself what the rules of being a good person are. The standards which a self-owner lives by may still be described as rules, but the worth of such rules do not come from the fact that an authority issued them, but because the individual believes that such rules describe inherently moral behavior. Yep. This is not to say that everyone agrees upon what is moral. though there is a wide consensus on some basic principles. Yeah, this is so true, right? This is not to say that everyone agrees upon what is moral, right? Like I said, what was it, 3 weeks ago or so, 2 weeks ago? Morality is a part of ethics, right? Ethics is a branch of philosophy. Ethics stems, ethics is about value, right? It stems from your own way of looking at reality. Yeah, put it in difficult words, I guess, is it stems from your ontology or your metaphysics, which are two the same things, ontology and metaphysics, and your epistemology, right? Metaphysics means nature of reality. So if you have somebody that, lives as though God really exists and says, well, morality comes from obeying God's laws, and I still claim that there is no such thing as God's laws. It's a contradiction in itself, God's laws. Why is that a contradiction? Because God doesn't need any laws. It would not be called God if there were laws involved. I could say more about that, but I'm not going to at this point. The point is that would differ, right, from somebody who does not believe in God, so to speak, and gets his ethics and therefore his morality from in a different way, right? So try and get that clear for yourself. What is your ethics based on? And therefore, what is your morality based on? Me personally, I'm not a theist, right? I don't believe in God in the sense that all of them that have been presented to us, like Odin and Freya and Jehovah, Yahweh, you name it, Krishna, Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma, the whole bunch of them, they don't exist, right? So, my personal morality is that life is what I would call sacred, right? That's where the non-aggression thing comes from. I think that any living being here on Earth has a right to life, right? But that's I derive that conclusion from the fact that I have unclear metaphysics on it, because I don't know what life is or where it came from, right? I think that the universe is created in order for life to manifest itself, right? So I think that life is something sacred, but only because I don't know. I have no idea. My metaphysics is a bit unclear in that case, but still I can draw a ethics from it, right? You shouldn't. You should try to avoid harming other life forms. Oh, yeah. My time is up. Eek.
And historically opposed to secret societies, secret oaths.
Thanks everybody in the chat. Anon, Benjoy, Del, JJ, Joe, Jules, Louis, Lady Pitbull, Road still there, Top Knot, Victory, Vince, Hans, Anon. Thanks everybody.
Dare you?
Take care. See you next week.
To create, so to say, mass-produced models of human beings arranged in some kind of scientific